A Philippine Coast Guard boat, dwarfed by a Chinese vessel, gets blasted by a water cannon. It's not archive footage. It happened this week near Scarborough Shoal. This is the South China Sea in 2026. Still tense, still unresolved, and still one of the most dangerous flashpoints on the planet. Here's why it matters. Roughly a third of all global shipping passes through these waters. Underneath the seabed sit untapped oil and gas reserves. And scattered across it are reefs, shoals, and sandbars. Scarborough Shoal, Second Thomas Shoal, the Spratly Chain, that several countries claim, but that China wants almost all of, under a sweeping boundary it calls the 9-dash line. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled that line had no legal basis under maritime law. China rejected the ruling outright, even kept building anyway, artificial islands, airstrips, military installations, despite having told the world it wouldn't militarize the region. So what is Beijing actually trying to do? Analysts describe it as a strategy of incremental control, sometimes called gray zone tactics. Not outright war, but constant grinding pressure just below that threshold. It looks like this. Coast Guard ships and maritime militia, technically civilian but state-directed, blocking, ramming, or water cannoning Philippine resupply boats. Flags planted and replanted on the same sandbars. Research vessels sent into disputed waters to assert presence. Temporary structures that Philippine officials fear could quietly become permanent outposts, the way past sandbars became artificial islands. The goal isn't necessarily a single dramatic conflict. It's normalization, making Chinese presence in these waters look routine, uncontested, permanent, one incident at a time, without ever crossing a line that would trigger a full military response from the Philippines or its treaty ally, the United States. The Philippines isn't standing still. It keeps a rusting World War II-era ship, the BRP Sierra Madre, deliberately grounded on Second Thomas Shoal as a military outpost. Civilian coalitions have slipped past Chinese ships to plant Philippine flags on contested sandbars, and Manila has deepened defense ties with Washington, Tokyo, and Canberra, over 500 joint military engagements planned with the U.S. alone this year. China reads that buildup as encirclement. The Philippines reads China's actions as coercion. Both sides are, in effect, telling a story where they're the one responding to the other's aggression. And that's part of why this dispute is so hard to de-escalate. There have been diplomatic openings, talks in Cebu earlier this year, progress on a Coast Guard hotline, a long-stalled regional code of conduct that ASEAN nations hope to finalize. But those talks move slowly, while incidents at sea keep happening weekly. Some analysts now describe the conflict as shifting from open confrontation towards something harder to see, intelligence operations and strategic disruption alongside the physical harassment. So is China taking advantage of the dispute? By most independent legal and strategic assessments, yes, Beijing is using sustained pressure to convert a contested claim into a practical reality on the water, calibrated carefully to avoid open war. Beijing, for its part, insists it's simply defending indisputable sovereignty over what it calls its own territory. Either way, the stakes are real. A miscalculation by a single ship captain in these crowded waters is what most analysts say could turn a decade.